carried away there for a second. I forgot we were supposed to be doing Quarantini hour. So, as it is Quarantini hour, whatever that is, I'm going to start off by making a quick Quarantini just to lubricate the wheels of what's it.
What's in your Quarantini today?
I'm not supposed to ask that. It remains a secret. It's a secret.
It's a Quarantini
It's a secret.
tonic with gin. And a lime. By some miracle, we had a lime.
You're detracting from the enigma that is the Quarantini cast. And nothing more really than just inviting you all to come and hang out on a Thursday night it's Tuesday night, when I would usually be playing at Chicky Wawa. And the idea here is just to really just talk about music more than really do a gig. I think I'm not doing a gig to an empty room. It's always a bit weird, but this is kind of hip because you can send in some messages and then questions if you've got any questions about what's under the hood of any of this stuff, to the degree that I can answer any of the questions, because I don't consider myself an expert. I'm just
would you like
someone
a
that
question?
enjoys tinkering with this.
Here's a question.
Here's a question.
And this, I remember this question from a few weeks ago.
Will you shut up and start playing some music?
We didn't get to it. That's not the question. The question from Kermit Boutte is, good to see you, John. Would love to hear the background on writing Pin Your Spin. Was it for House, the TV show?
Pin Your Spin. Pin Your Spin is a song that I recorded on for a local New Orleans label called Basin Street Records, arguably the best and most successful record company that ever came out of New Orleans. And I was working with Basin Street Records, and we had 2 albums. One was called Pin Your Spin, and I honestly can't remember that there was any particular inspiration for it. I remember getting the original idea because at that time I was sort of quarantined in England until I could get a visa to come back into the States, and working out of a little studio in a medieval barn on a farm about 5 miles from my mum and dad's house. So I recorded and wrote a lot of songs in that period, and that was one of them. And I can't really remember what the context was. It was more one of the songs where it was the musical idea. I liked the G minor. I like G minor. It's a great key on the piano, and it's a great key on the guitar, and it suits my voice well for a certain kind of thing. So it was written in G. I've got to try and remember how it goes. Well, now you could sell ice to an Eskimo, and you could sell Bibles to a holy Joe. Don't try to pin your spin on me. Say you could sell water to a drowning man, sell blood dirt back on dry land, but don't try to pin your spin on me. Spin that to put me in the spin I'm in. I'm rich that giving me the shakes again. A preacher on the take saying have a nice day. What you all got you can't give away. And you can sell a blue sky to the blind, sell fresh air in the countryside. Don't try it, all depend your spin on me. Don't try to pin your spin on me. You can't pin, you can't pin, you can't pin your spin on me. You can't pin, you can't pin, you can't pin your spin on me. You cake. Oh, till you're spent on me. Something like that. Anyway, but it was a guitar tune, really, originally. Any other questions coming in from
Okay,
points
here's
around the
one.
globe?
Here's a double question from one person. From Chris Brightman. He says, with the passing of Dr. John last year, do you feel a sense of responsibility to keep the tradition alive, or are there other young Turks coming up that will help keep it going? Also, would love to hear you do Misty Blue, funked up or straight.
Do I feel any responsibility? I don't feel a responsibility, really. Um, Traditions. It's sad if a tradition dies. There was a point in the 70s, I suppose, where the brass band thing wasn't really faring that well. But then all of a sudden came Danny Barker and the Fairview Baptist band and all the great musicians that came out of that. And then you had all of a sudden, the Dirty This one when I first got to town, they were doing a brass band thing that was new. So things change. A lot of stuff I play, I just like old music. A lot of stuff I play is really old. And they don't really use pianos and upright basses in records too much anymore, pop records anyway. Um, so I enjoy playing the old New Orleans stuff. That's what I love. And that's what I do when I play here in town on my solo gigs, just to give all those lovely old songs a good breathing and freshening up. And I don't really think about that stuff too much, to be honest with you.
Misty Blue?
Misty Blue. Well, baby, well, now it's been such a long, long time. Baby, looks like I had you off of my mind. You wanted like a funked up version of it? Is that the idea? All right. I don't even know what key that is. It's probably kind of digging it though. Well, now, baby, it's just the thought of you. Oh, baby, make my whole world Mr. Blue. Change it to a flute. Honey, just a mention of your name turns the flicker to a flame. And I think about all the things I used to do. Turn my whole Mr. Blue. Honey, I just a mention of your name. Make the flicker, turn to a flame. And I think about all the things we used to do. And my whole world turns Mr. Blue. Ooh, Mr. Blue. Mr. Blue. Mr. Blue. Something like that. Anyway, you could do all kinds of things. Things with a good song, you can rearrange it in any kind of style, really.
My mom's watching. So's Nosley.
Oh, hello, chaps. Bottoms up. Actually, I'm going to fill up the Quarantini glass. Yes, but that's a good question, because you can take, if a song is a good song, you can arrange it in a number of ways. Unless, of course, the groove and the sentiment of the music is completely at odds with the nature of the lyrics. Although sometimes when you sing something sad with a jaunty melody, it makes it more poignant, really.
Chelsea Griggy says, how is it like playing with Bonnie Raitt?
Playing with Bonnie is a joy. I love Bonnie Raitt's playing, first and foremost. That's where I first became familiar with Bonnie. And I used to, there was one record in particular that had a great version of I Know, the old Barbara George, old New Orleans R&B tune. That was one of the first things I heard, and I really dug that because it had a good New Orleans feel to it. But Bonnie's fantastic, amazing pitch, and beautiful control of her modulation when she sings, and the timbre of her voice is amazing. She has like an imaginary dirt button that you can just turns up in increments, and you get this gravel raspy kind of nasty thing, and she can just dial it back and sing the same note with beautifully clear tone. She's remarkable. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. Great time of my life, touring with Bonnie for out there for about 10 years. It was just a joy to be. It was always a joy to play on stage every night with really good musicians. I've been quite blessed in that sort of department, really. But yeah, we haven't played together for a while. Last time was Jazz Fest. Last time was Jazz Fest. Oh, I should pull the mic over. That's a bit more clear. Okay. Last time we played was Jazz Fest. I don't know when. I don't know when I'm going to be seeing anybody next. Frankly, the way things are at the moment, it's all so weird. But we stay in touch and we get emails, funny stuff. But to be part of that band was definitely a thrill. Great privilege.
All right, here's one that you're probably going to like, and I'm not going to understand. Dylan Moira says, maybe a silly question, and the answer might be many years of practice, but could you talk about how someone goes from having the hang of major minor chords and 12/8 grooves to learning the kind of funk rhythms from songs like Fool's Game? Maybe if you could just point to just the first thing to start with. Thanks, loving these.
Well, it is that's a good question, how you're playing funk, really. And there's a long ramp up to it, and it requires dexterity, and requires really the funkiest stuff I do. Well, all this music is really, remember, break it all down to two things, essentially, rhythm and harmony. And New Orleans music is quite sophisticated in both respects. But it's certainly good, very important. First of all, you say you can play 12/8 grooves. And a 12/8 groove, for people who are listening, I'm not sure what that means. It's like this in a New Orleans context. It's that groove is 12/8, 12/8 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So, it's first thing is to be able to play that really cleanly and with a built-in sense of rhythm. And then, then the next step is sometimes is rumba. That's really where the funk starts to come in, because that's pretty straight. But if you can get used to doing... that's thinking like a percussionist. And then, so you can do it like this, with the octaves. Or you can just go. And then you just start to introduce variations like... Actually, it's quite a sophisticated one, but you get the general idea. You just... Take a good look at what's looking real good to you, and think real hard about what it is you see. Is there really where you want to be? Come on now, look real hard around, see what's going on. It's a fool's game. The road to getting funky is a long, hard, well-travelled, badly paved, but smelly, quite stony. Don't walk it barefoot. But it takes a long time to get to play that kind of New Orleans funk. I'm still trying to figure out, and I've been doing it for donkey's years. So, thing is, just keep at it because that's the fun part.
Here's another one. David Brooks says, "How did you come up with ascending chromatic runs in the solo in Po' Boy Blues?"
Oh, that.
That or the
Ascending.
that would be
That.
descending.
These are all like boogie woogie standard variations. That I think if that's the thing you mean. Well, you know, one thing it used to be really hard to be heard as a piano player. The guitars could turn up, the drums were always loud, right in your ears, and the bass could crank. And there's the poor old piano. And in the old days, you'd have a little called a transducer pickup that you'd stick to the back of a real piano, and it would feed back at a certain point and start sounding really bad. So when it came time to solo, you couldn't really be kind of any subtle nuance down there just got buried. So you're like bashing like Little Richard trying to get heard. And that was probably something I came up with back in the days playing with JJ and the Flyers at the Hare and Hounds in Islington, maybe. Because it cuts through like a knife on a boogie. And people like all that fast stuff at the top end, but it's nothing really, it's just with that in between. But it's kind of nice to suggest the chords that are underlying it by playing with the seventh. So with the third. This one here, so it's going. And then it goes. Ah, see, now I'm thinking about it, messing it up. See, now I love you, baby, you sure don't love me. Well, tell me what's up or what's supposed to do. You broke my heart, you turned that sucker in two. Now somebody got the poor boy blues. I wake up every morning, yeah, I rub my aching head. I cry myself to sleep at night, wishing I wake up dead. You hurt my heart, you tore that sucker in two. Now somebody got the poor boy blues. Sucker too. Now somebody got the poor boy blues. I don't even know if that riff I was talking about is even in that tune. I might be getting muddled up with something totally different. Anyway, there's an explanation about one of them.
Barbara Travers says, "What's your favorite menu item at La Uses by the Track?"
Gumbo used to be really good. I'm sure it still is. And the shrimp sandwiches, obviously.
I think your favorite menu item would probably be me, because I used to work there.
Ah, well, of course. In that
a
sense,
million
yes.
years ago. Yeah, it was all really delicious. That shrimp. Anyway, look, Ade's here. When you'd play for Fats at his house, what was that run he played down from the treble while you were playing?
Oh, God, that was ages ago. I can't remember.
Probably in that video.
And maybe I was playing in G, and he was doing just a rundown, an arpeggiated G chord, just going down the scale. I think it was something like that.
Yep. Let's see. Tom Dewar says in Mac's live versions of Such a Night, he usually has a part that sounds like a circle of fourths or fifths over a right-hand riff. If you know what I'm talking about, could you maybe demonstrate it, please? Thanks for all your insights.
I was rather hoping you'd demonstrate it to me, actually, because I know exactly what you mean. And I've never actually sat down and tried to figure out what he's doing, because I think he doesn't really know himself. I mean, I think he played it. I heard him play that a million times, that tag on the end, and it was never the same twice. But yeah, it comes out of that part that goes... something like that. Something like that. Some kind of shit. One of these days I'm actually going to sit down and learn that, because that would always blow my mind. First time I heard him play that thing was at Tipitina's with the Chris Barber Jazz Band, which is the band that my mum used to go and see in the 50s in London.
Let's see, where did that one go? I'm scrolling.
While you're scrolling, I think just... Any questions about Cuban stuff?
Not yet. We're waiting for a question about Cuban stuff because we've got the Trez today. But in the meantime, George, I'm going to butcher your last name, George Stogianou. John, how do you incorporate second line rhythms into your playing?
Well, second line rhythms, one way to incorporate the second line rhythms into your playing is to spend about 40 years stumbling around every Sunday in second lines. That's the first part. Because it all comes from the drums, basically, as do most rhythms. But it's a bit hard for me to simulate an entire second line. But the music, the rhythms that are played usually have a rumba feel, a Caribbean kind of rumba feel. Even if the bass isn't, or the tuba isn't necessarily playing that, there's boom. So it'll be a variation on that. So if you start getting used to playing rumba, and it's really playing in the right hand when you're not playing in the left hand that gives it that jaunty, kind of bouncy feel. Playing like a percussionist. So you've got these two things basically going on. You've got this implied rhythm. And you got ba ba gong gong boom 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 boom, bigger pulse in the left hand. And so you can slow it down. As soon as you've got all those kind of accents voiced somewhere in what you're playing, then you're really doing an impersonation. The piano is doing an impersonation of what the drums are doing. and the notes you choose, of course, intimate where the horns and everything else will be playing. But you have to go to a lot of second line parades and listen to a lot of. It's really very. It's a part of so much New Orleans music, but often sometimes it's really in your. Sometimes when it's in your face, and sometimes when it's kind of buried in the mix. But if you can identify it, it's like a distinct flavour. But yeah, start by playing rumbas slow, and then speed them up, and then start trying to thinking more like a percussionist. That'll get you there.
Okay, here's a bunch of Cuba questions. Ready?
Yeah.
All right. Brandy Kenna says, what are the most interesting Cuban timings you like to work in? Mark A. Anzalone Sr. says, do some Cuban rhythms have a dual rhythm at the same time? And Buddy Yearling says, Cuban influence, crossover between Prez Prado and Fess. I hear both influencing your playing. Greeting from Fort Collins, Colorado. We hope you come back.
All right, well, there's a lot of good questions there. And this is one of my favourite things that I've been checking out for the last 20-odd years, really. This is the first time I went down to Cuba. So are there two rhythms at work? There are so many different rhythms at work. It depends how complicated you want to get into your thinking about it. But generally in Cuban music, musicians pay attention to the clave. And that sort of dictates where they leave space and where they play. But there are very few real strict rules, and a lot of even experts disagree on some the finer points of clave in Cuban music. But the similarity between Prado and Fess, well, I think before even Prado and Fess, there is something that comes out of old boogie playing and the old Junkers blues, where New Orleans piano players will voice a chord with the 5 at either extreme. It's just a basic triad, but they stick the 5. The chord is wrapped either side with what musicians call the 5 note of the chord, and that one's actually quite an aggressive note. It's not this one. You expect it to be this one, but it's not. And it lends itself then to things like the thumb can almost act as a counterpoint. But you get so used to using this shape when playing New Orleans R&B. But one things I got interested in early on going to Cuba was the fact that they voiced a lot of their chords like this too. And when you take a chord, you can arpeggiate it. You can break it up into its consistent elements and play them in order, or you can mess with it. And I really like that style, and where that you. I love all that stuff. That's what really kind of drew me to Cuba. But when I got to Cuba and went to Santiago, which is like the New Orleans of Cuba, an instrument that interested me was the tres, because in Santiago people usually play out in the street. Well, there's quite often not a piano there, and the piano doesn't really feature in the old music from there, which is called son. But something about Cuba inspired me to dig up my old tres and put some strings on it. So this is a Cuban tres, and I'll show you because it's kind of hip. Except I can't find my bloody pick now.
There's one over there. Oh, see it?
Oh, hold on. Can you get it for me? Because I'm all strapped in.
Yes.
All right.
In front of the camera.
Let me see how we're going to do this. So what's interesting is in the music I heard in Santiago that I really liked. This was the instrument that was playing those parts. And this is called a Cuban trez. And it's really interesting because of the way it's strung. It only exists in Cuba, this instrument. And I bought this from a little old lady whose husband had been a tracero and who had died. And so I picked this up and learned how to play something on it, at least anyway. But the tuning's unusual. It goes like this. Let's see if I can get it a bit more comfortable. So when you play it, this string here is tuned in octaves, and this string here is tuned in octaves, which is the same thing as going. So when you go, it's like. So I think really what's interesting historically, and as I say, I'm not an expert on this stuff, but this instrument, by playing arpeggiated chords and defining the chord progressions in the early bands from Santiago, was replaced when the music became popular in Havana and went into the big auditoriums and dance halls where a piano assumed that role. And that's really where that style comes from, of that. So there's a little diversion about Professor Longhair, Pres Prado, Cuban Tres arpeggios. This is a lovely instrument. My favourite player is Arsenio Rodriguez, and he would play these lovely melancholy things. Because of the way it's strung, it has a sort of Middle Eastern quality to it too, I like. There you have the Cuban Tres.
Don't put it away yet.
Oh, don't put it away yet.
Tom
Another question.
Dewar says, could you do Iko Iko on the Trez?
Yeah. Well, now, my spot boy and your spot boy sitting on the bayou. Oh, my spot boy till your spot boy, I'm gonna set your tail on fire. Talking about hey now, Iko Iko one day. Giacomo fino hanande, Giacomo finane. My spot boy and your spot boy sitting on the bayou. My spot boy till your spot boy gonna set your tail on fire. Talking about hey now, Iko Iko one day. With Giacomo fino hanande, Giacomo finane. Iko Iko one day. Oh, Giacomo fino hanande, Giacomo finane. A sort of version of Iko. Right, Trez is going to bed, and it's time for me to top up my Quarantini. How is everybody doing in Quarantini world, I wonder? After some 5 weeks, I think I've been out of the house 3 times. So music's keeping me sane and together, thank goodness. Hopefully some of you all are digging the New Orleans sounds. If you want to join the little newsletter thing we've set up and subscribe, go to the link on the page and click on that, and that'll take you to a chance to send in your email address. And that way we can send you extra stuff that comes out of Funk Headquarters Studios over the ensuing months, because there's not going to be any gigs for a long time, so we're going to be making music as we can. So anyway.
Here's
Cheers.
a question from earlier. Kermit Boutte says, was Mo Hippa and I think I wrote Anthem. I can't read my handwriting. Was Mo Hippa an anthem for getting New Orleans back together after Katrina, or did you write it before the storm?
Moi Hippa is a song we play on our gigs, and one that just does a really good job of closing the set, especially because most of the time these days we're on tour. We were supposed to be on tour this whole summer. We had a tour in Europe with Taj Mahal, my band and Taj, which is not going to happen now, of course, because of the situation. What was the question again?
Did you write
Oh, Moi Hippa.
Mo Hippa?
No, I wrote Moi Hippa when I was feeling very homesick for New Orleans. I can remember it vividly. I wrote it on a piece of paper on the back of a number 30 bus in London on the way to Islington. And really, I just got this idea. I wanted to it was just a list of all, at that time, the time I wrote it, that was the stuff that was going on every night. Sadly, I wrote it so long ago that hardly anybody on the list is alive. I think Walter Washington and the Rebirth Brass Band. Yeah, sadly. But it refers to guys that were playing around town who were really good: Snooks Eaglin, Eddie Bow, Willie T, Ernie Cato, Walter Wolfman Washington, Art Neville. And every little verse is a reference to one of those with a little play. The line is a little play on one of their songs. So Willie T's Just Teasing You. Papa Funk meeting out a bad new groove. That's about Art Neville and the Meters. And anyway, yeah, it was a song I wrote years ago, and then we ended up cutting a track for a recording session in Los Angeles with John Porter, which was just a track. I think it started out as some Indian carnival tune. And so I ended up with this great groove, but with no lyrics for it. And I remembered this song I'd written ages before, and it just fit like a glove on the song. So that's where that song came around. Just a flash of inspiration on the back of a bus with a pen and a piece of paper. A lot of my songs end up getting written like that. It's got a little funk groove to it too, which is kind of nice. Sit on a rebirth kicking alive, and Magnolia's got a new kind of groove. Snooks gonna drop the bomb, y'all, and Brother Wolfman hound the blues. Hey, Eddie boy hotter than Popeye, Willie T's just teasing you. Papa Funk been out on the baddest groove. Cato burn it too. What we got is more hipper than what you got. What we got, yeah, nah. Oh, my hipper than what you got. So now if you just came to play and you ain't got that monster swing, so lift your back, get the hell out the way and let the gentlemen do their thing. What we got is more hipper than what you got. Talk about New Orleans and what we got. Oh yeah. Oh, more hipper than what you got. Three birds kicking alive. Magnolia's got a new kind of groove. Snooks gonna drop the bomb, y'all. Brother Wolfman howl the blues. Well now, Eddie boy hotter than Popeye. Willie T's just teasing you. Papa Funk been around on the baddest grooves, and K don't burn it too. What we got is more hipper than what you got, yeah. Anyway, it was that time you could go and see all those guys: Eddie Bow, Willie T, Johnny Adams, Tommy Ridgely. I was very lucky to get to play and work with a lot of that generation of New Orleans musicians who were the Dewdrop-In generations, the generation that basically defined rhythm and blues and what went on to become rock and roll. Like one of the most important things that happened in 20th century popular culture was really the brainstorm of those old men. They were nice guys, a lot of them, good cats.
Here's a request from YouTube. Rafael Santos says, can you play Come On Second Line?
Come On Second Line. It's a bit like what we were talking about earlier on with playing street grooves, you know. Well, there's a kind of section, it's a song to strut. Usually the song would require accompaniment from drums, so you imagine this kind of groove going on in the background. Hey, Pocky Wet. Hey, Pocky Wet. Hey, Pocky Wet. Hey, Pocky Wet. Hey, Pocky Wet early in the morning. Hey, Pocky Wet. That's the kind of New Orleans carnival street beat. And now some things come and some things go, but there's one gonna stay for sure. Well, it's a kind of crunk and it's a kind of groove. You bend your spine, gonna shake your shoes. Pack your trunk, kinda lose your blues. Get your belly full of wine. Then they hit on down on the battleground. We get wild, go second line. Come on now.
here's one. Tim Alley says, one night only. Fess is playing in one club. Booker is playing across the street. Whom do you go see?
Well, Fest, because I never saw Professor Longhair. You know, I mean, when Booker was playing, when Booker was playing on Tuesday nights at the Maple Leaf, it would be pretty. There was never many people in there, really. It was kind of sad to see Booker up there. He was good, though, man. He would sort of get stuck in. But it wasn't a big deal. And if Booker suddenly materialized out of the blue and was going to do one night at Carnegie Hall, you know, they'd be sold out at $100 a ticket, you know. And Fest, too. Fest could suddenly come back. But the truth is, when these guys were around, I don't know about Professor Longhair, but I've heard people say it. But certainly same with Booker, when he was around, I don't think anybody realized how important it was. And it wasn't a big deal. I got to see him every Tuesday because it was my local bar and I worked there. So I saw James Booker a lot. And I think familiarity breeds contempt, really, when you're playing all the time. People take it for granted, but then you're suddenly gone and everyone goes, oh man, look what we're missing. So the same with Fess. If I had a chance, I'd go and see Fess, because I only heard Fess on record. I never got to see him live. That was my ambition as a little kid, and he died right before I was old enough to come here.
Just barely. You missed him by months.
Yeah, I can't remember more than that. But
Lenny Thompson says, your inspiration for Frenchman Street Blues?
well, songs can come to you in all sorts of ways, and there is such a thing as inspiration, I think. But it certainly helps when you actually got something definite to write about. And this song, as you can tell from the title, is a blues tune. And I wrote it one morning as I was getting ready to leave for the airport to go on the road. And a friend of mine, a builder who'd helped me build this studio, had just died. And he built very quickly and died very quickly and took everyone by surprise. And I was unable to go to the funeral. It had to be hastily arranged. And I was up early that day and I sat down at the piano and I wrote this song very quickly and just recorded it, dashed it off, and they played it on a CD, and I flew off to the gig, but they played it apparently for him as they scattered his ashes. And he'd wanted his ashes scattered on Frenchman Street, so that was the first line, and all the other lines came from there, really. But it's let me see what a good key is to sing it. Maybe sing it in E flat. Scatter my ashes on Frenchman. Don't be upset at the news. Except I'm playing the chords wrong. I'll play it in the original key because I'm scatter my ashes all in Frenchman Street. Don't be upset by the news. Cut me loose, ooh Lord, with a soulful song. But don't play no Frenchman Street blues. Hits me alright on a river breeze. To Elysian fields so green. Now join the spirits all looking around and smile on the back streets of old New Orleans. I did my time in that masquerade. And I ran the rough and not smooth. Paint me a canvas of peace of mind. Don't play No, don't play. Did my time all on in masquerade. And I ran the road, ooh Lord, in the smooth. Paint me a canvas, a piece of mind. Don't play. No, don't play, don't play, don't play. I'll meet you one night in your sultry dreams. Let's drink me a toast as you snooze. And I'll close out my tap, y'all, at the happy hour. But don't play. Don't play. Don't play, don't play, don't play. No Frenchman Street blues. Yeah, that was for Mark, our old builder. Yeah. Rest in peace. Yeah, good cat. It might be time to start winding up the Quarantini hour. Not because I'm not enjoying it, but
Well,
because
Facebook is still-
mine has mysteriously disappeared and our Facebook site's starting to get wonky. So,
you want some requests to say goodbye?
Yeah, well, some
All right.
request to shut up. Yeah, yeah. Please say goodbye.
Say goodbye. Here's 3. When you get back, Brickyard Blues or Tipitino?
Okay. So it's that time. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in again. And, of course, thanks to all those kind people who donate to the virtual tip jar that's out there. But if you do go in that direction, the little link, don't forget to click and subscribe, and then we can send you some
Free things.
funky free things like ringtones. Somebody said they got their ringtones and they dig it.
People commented, so
Yeah?
the
Oh,
ringtones
cool.
have been sent.
All right, well, actually, if you all want to request a specific ringtone, that might be kind of
Can
fun.
make some ringtones.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I've got to keep myself occupied in the studio. So yeah, click on the subscription link and we can send you free stuff. Share this out, tell all your friends, spread the word. And I'm really enjoying these little Quarantini things, and glad at least there's some people out there listening to all this. So this is the gig until the current situation changes. Do, 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 yeah, yeah. All right, so I want this one. She loved me fine when I was riding from Hong Kong, and dug it even better, calling long distance on the phone. Cool and sexy, getting a postcard from Brazil. Ah, but now I'm back here, back home. All she wanna give me is a chill. Yeah, yeah. Oh, will you get back? We're gonna cha-cha all night long. Oh, baby, she lied. When you get back, we're gonna gonna sing a different song. But she lied, lied, lied. When you get back, babe, everything be Gucci cool, yes it will. But she lied. When you get back, baby, I'll take care of you. But she lied, oh, she lied. Know that she lied. You know that she lied. You know that she lied. Oh, oh yeah. New York, I had it all planned out. Oh, you should have seen how it all planned out. I'm in a hotel, wonder where she's at. But you know the girl giving me the third degree. That ain't where it's at now. When you get back, we're gonna chop all night long. She lied. She said when you get back, we're gonna sing a different song. Oh, but she lied. When you get back, everything be Gucci cool. Oh, but she lied. Yeah. When you get back, baby, I'll take care of you. Oh. See you at the next Quarantini Hour on Thursday. Tune in, tell your friends, and join in. And please send in some questions. And yeah, see you next time.